How do you assure voices are at the table and heard, or does it evolve organically just because of goodwill among the parties?
No, no, people start to address it at a young age, okay, in a family. They talk about it, how they can transition. You know, if you're really, I always say that, you know, they're your children, okay? You raise them, or you instill the values into those children as to how to conduct themselves. And so at some point in time, you've got to let them go. And you've got to, you're going to respect their decision and how they're going to take care of it. I've said to fathers very simply, I said, what are you worried about control if you have confidence in your children? Do you think that they're going to turn against you? I mean, if you think that they're going to turn against you, then there's a different issue. But if you have really confidence in your children, okay, then you can have the most effective estate plan take place without any difficulty. It's when you keep trying to hold on to everything for a long period of time and you're going to build your estate versus transmitting that estate in a sensible way, it's pretty good. But there has to be planning, okay? And children are going to tell you, I don't want to go into business. That's not for me. I'm going to be a musician or something else, and you can't force the situation. I think that it evolves as a result of discussion and leadership and going to your trusted advisors and sitting down and discussing it with the proposed next generation. You know, I've been in situations where fathers and mothers have come to me and said, you know, Coleman, our children are off doing something else, and I don't know if they're coming into the business or they're not coming into the business, but if they're not coming into the business, then we have to prepare it for sale, because I'm not going to do this for another 20 years or 15 years. And so I've gone and I've had that discussion. You know, what are you going to do? Are you coming in or are you staying out? A lot of things come out of that, okay? But you got to talk. You got to communicate. And you've got to lay down what your expectations are and what their expectations are. And putting the plan together after you have that is not very difficult.
I just want to put you all on notice. Your Q&A opportunity comes as we get to the end of this flow, but I want to go to Megan next on this same set of topics.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that I'll add to this. So we do a lot of planning as well. My father actually kind of runs a family meeting at the end of every single year. So it's usually right around Christmas, because that's when everybody's together. He puts an agenda together.
Does he give out the bonuses then?
It's, you know, the topics are usually revenue of the company, health, taxes, estate planning, that kind of thing, and we go through this list, and that way everybody is very aware of what the direction is. The other thing is that, you know, and I say a lot of what my dad says, because he's my biggest mentor. He's a gem if you guys have not met him. He says fair is not always equal and equal is not always fair, and that was something that we really took to heart. So I'm the oldest of 5, the only one that was really interested in the company. My next sibling, my brother, he's this amazing photographer, very creative, would run the business into the ground, just wouldn't do well. And he readily admits that. My sister opened up her own restaurant out in San Francisco at the age of 21, ran that successfully, and then became a farmer in Sonoma. You know, just very independent, very entrepreneurial. And then I have 2 younger brother and sister. They're 21 and 20, so they're still kind of finding their way. The oldest of the three have shares in the company. The younger two do not. They're kind of dealt with separately, real estate, that kind of thing. And we were given an equal amount, the oldest three, and then I was allowed to purchase more because of my involvement in the company. So even though I'm the CEO, I'm not the majority shareholder or the majority owner. We deal with that by voting shares and non-voting shares. So we kind of use a couple of different ways to manage these situations. And again, a lot of it is based on, we have these communications, we talk, everybody understands, the situation, and that's really helped us. And honestly, I think the other part of it is that we grew up never feeling entitled. My parents never allowed us to behave that way, and so none of us expected any of it. We're just very grateful to be a part of the company in any way that we can be, and we work hard to keep that going.
Don?
I would say my experience has been there's so many different options for it there. And there's good ones and bad ones. And the example that was brought up about if you were concerned about are the kids going to not work well together, I've seen agreements pulled together that when it gets to where they want to transition, it has tied up the company and it has restricted them for doing the things that are in the best interest of the business. For example, with 3 siblings and 1 or 4 siblings, no decision could be made on the exit or anything with all 4 agreeing. And it was impossible to do that. So I think, I don't know what the answer, and there's probably people that, attorneys that have worked well with, and business advisors, family business, but I would look at a lot of options and really think about what the different combinations could be in the future before I'd select anyone. I think the voting shares, though, I've seen that it's worked well versus equity, and, but there's a lot of options, and be real careful that you don't pick one that you regret 10 years from now.
Sabrina?
So there are 3 children in my family. My father structured the transition a little bit differently than Megan's father. My brother and I both work in the company, and so my father gifted shares of the company to the 2 of us. And my sister is going to enjoy her inheritance when my father passes away. And so my father's philosophy was that he didn't want someone owning the company if they weren't working in it. And I know that he did that with all good intent, and he's very concerned about treating the children fairly. My brother and I are very happy with the way things are. My sister, unfortunately, is not. So those families who are considering structuring the transition in that way, I'll caution you that it can be very painful for the child who is not only not working in the business, but not enjoying the profits of the business.
You talked a little, particularly in this last segment, about ownership and how you make decisions and so forth. I'm curious about whether there is a role and where you've seen a role for outside of the family advisors, and is it structured, unstructured, formal, informal? Do you reach out to non-family members in any kind of formalized or informal manner for advice and guidance?
Yeah, I'll start. I have a lot of mentors. I'm a continuous learner. I kind of thrive on that, and I know that I don't know everything. I'm part of an organization called the Young Presidents Organization, the YPO group.
Yeah.
And that's been tremendously helpful for me because, a lot of my friends are not in the same situation that I'm in, and it's difficult to talk to them about some of, the issues that I face on any given day. And so this group of people faces a lot of the same issues that I do, and that has been very helpful. Just kind of connecting with other leaders, other female leaders. And I would say, our executive team, I put together an executive team at the beginning of the year. I kind of reorged the entire company and put together, the people that I really trusted and felt confident that they would be able to help me lead the company. So that's worked well for us. We don't have a formal board, and right now we're comfortable with that. That being said, we are growing at a very fast rate, and I imagine that's something that we'll look into in the next couple of years. But for now, that's been working for us.
I too am involved in some organizations, smaller manufacturers organization, Women in Manufacturing, and they also have helped me to get some advice from other family business owners and small business owners. And my brother is involved in a CBIA roundtable, so they've been very helpful.
I guess I would add, I think the YPO or whatever, I've actually spoken at those, and I think those are great and very helpful and can be. I think that the one benefit, whether it's informal or formal, of have advisors that work with your business over a period of time and understand it in detail and understand it, whether, you know, it's a formal where there's like, you know, monthly board calls and board meetings, or informal, but they become more intimately involved in the specifics of the business you're in and the issues there. I think that can help, especially as you grow and the company gets bigger.
Coleman?
I've found that having advisors who evolve with you over a period of time and get to know you and get to know the business and get to know the family and get to know how you operate is critical. A lot of people think it's very sexy to have a board, okay? Well, you know, what you wish for, you might not want, okay? And in addition to that, but there's two things that occur. And there's a difference between an advisory board and a formal legal board. But in either situation, if you have a board with outside people or an advisory group with outside people, and they start making recommendations, and there are a number of recommendations, and you don't follow through with those recommendations, although they might not have any legal standing, okay, it's going to disband. Okay, because they're going to feel that they have absolutely no involvement, and you know, they're getting $500 to come to a meeting or something of that sort, but it's meaningless and it doesn't work. So be very careful and very cautious when it comes to that arena.
Final comment.
Okay, quick one on that. The point, the company I mentioned before with the siblings that weren't getting along and the father coming back, I helped them put together an advisory board, and it was much more high-powered than they could expect. They left a year and a half later, they disbanded it. And I called up the brother I knew best. I said, why? Were you unhappy? He goes, no, they told us all the right things, but we didn't want to listen to them. And they literally disbanded the board.
That's it.
Happens.
First of all, thank you, everybody. That was really great. Question as to whether anyone has dealt with the potential of a liquidity event. So a third party coming in and offering perhaps a significant sum that some in the family think is enough, more than enough, and others perhaps not.
I can say that I probably get an email once a day, maybe more, from a private equity firm, at least. And you know, I think for us, we're really fortunate. I mean, right now, all the owners of the company, you know, we define our success by the amount of people that we can positively impact their lives. And right now, our ability to do that is by running this company. I mean, the numbers are high. It's, you know, we've been given some really impressive proposals, but I also think that we're just kind of one of those families that isn't driven by that. You know, I'm not sure I would change my lifestyle. You know, if I'm not really sure what I would do. I feel like I would have no purpose.
Start another business.
So, we're really lucky that we're kind of all on the same page. Now, that being said, you know, I'm painting a pretty picture here, but there have certainly been struggles. You know, my uncle is the executive vice president, and he definitely was not on board, you know, as much as everybody was, and rightly so. I can completely understand, you know, his situation. I think, you know, he was in the company for 30 years and perhaps expected to have a leadership position. So there is conflict, and it's a lot more emotional when it's family, because, you know, you don't just leave the office and not have to deal with that person. Like, I have to go have Christmas dinner with him. And we just spent Thanksgiving at his house, and we share a family summer home in Cape Cod. We spend a lot of time together. So, you know, I can never say that we will never do it. You know, I can't guarantee anything, but for right now, we're all on the same page, and we're all pretty happy with how things are going.
Given that we just talked about the outside offer that comes in for the company, One of the other places where valuation often plays a role is when the first generation and second generation are working out a transition plan. It's sometimes the case that the first generation thinks the value is here, and the second generation thinks it's here. And how do you close that gap? And how do you close the gap when the first generation thinks the value is here, in large part because of the value they add every day, and if they go away, that'll go away? Thoughts about that question, and then we'll take the last one. Coleman?
Dean, well, I did have a situation like that in the first generation and a second generation, or maybe a second and a third generation. And the older person walked in to the annual meeting when they set valuation, and all of a sudden he established, he set forth a value that was twice as much as the previous year, and the economics didn't warrant it, let's put it that way, okay? And there was really a battle that took place. And the alternative in that situation was, if you can't come to an agreement, it'll be book value, okay? Which was way down. And the next generation said, we're not budgeting. You need our vote, and we're not doing a dime, and we'll just wait for you to die. I mean, in reality, that's exactly what was said.
Right.
And what it ended up doing, it broke up the business. It broke up the business.
So I've been involved from both the buy side on that, but from board perspective, and in two examples, one privately held and one in an ESOP. And there's a debate, and the ESOP makes it more complicated because you have to take the impact on all the owners of the firm, which are all employees. I think the answer is pretty clear in that, is you just, today there's so much activity, you can just go out there, you can get an independent advisor to say, here are the market comps, this is the multiples of EBITDA you get. So, all these debates were going on the board, and we said, okay, EBITDA is $10 million, and the companies are going for $6 million, so it's a $60 million value, and there's a certain amount of debt. And you can do that. You get an outside independent advisor that has exposure to other, not exactly, and that can get it away from the, I think it's here, and I think it's here, and it narrows the band so you can have a real discussion.
So Simsbury Bank's purpose in collaborating with UConn and the Family Business Program is to create more knowledge and more access to information that's useful to family businesses, useful to our economy, and frankly, useful to Simsbury Bank. Many of our folks are here today, and this is another opportunity for them to learn about family businesses, and we are trying to and continue to try to build our knowledge in family businesses because we'd like to be the bank for family businesses in Connecticut, and this has been a great way for us to do it, partnering with UConn and UConn's Family Business Program. One of the other things that we're doing, Simsbury Bank is doing now to add to knowledge and conversation in the state is focusing on manufacturing. Manufacturing is really a growth driver of Connecticut's economy today. And we launched several months ago a podcast series called Manufacturing Matters. And although the focus is on manufacturing, many of our guests have been family business owners or advisors to family business owners. So inevitably in the podcast, you'll get also insights into family businesses and manufacturing. If you go to your podcast app and type in Manufacturing Matters, we will pop up there somewhere in there, and you can, I'd encourage you to check those out.